Hi, everybody. Welcome to the neighborhood. I thought I'd put my 2 cents on this collaboration with a lot of YouTubers called Occult Tea, which is like a spin on occult tea. Let's dish the tea. So I'm going to dish my portion of the tea. This collaboration or this was started by the Polish folk witch and Ella Harrison's as collaborators. And I'd like to thank them both because I think it is opening up some dialogue that is much needed. I'm not sure if we're going to all have all the answers to some of the questions. Some of them we may have to think about more and kind of ponder over. And some things I think it's not our place to impede on some people. But let's get started with the questions because I'm going to try to do this as short as I can, but still answer the questions as honestly as I can. So, first of all, I like to introduce myself. My name is Linda, but my YouTube channel is called Sophia Brings Light. And Sophia is one of my witchy names. Sophia meaning wisdom. So basically, my channel means wisdom brings light. So that's a little bit about me. And in this space, I just believe in sharing. I came to YouTube about 3 or 4 years ago. I have real low numbers. I'm not really concentrated on the numbers. I like to share and look at other people's videos, share my own thoughts on things. And as I'm making comments and everything on other people's videos, if you look me up, I would like to have something that represents me. Um, I am a practitioner of magical arts, and so I don't feel like my practice is perfect. I don't feel like I'm an expert, though I feel like I know a lot of things about a lot of things, but I'm not an expert in all things. Um, and so, really, I came to this community basically to share information and to participate in the community. So that answers question one. What is my personal reason and inspiration behind sharing my practice? Just to share information, to share in the community, to if I have tips or things that I feel like, hey, this works for me, may work for you because I have found some great tips on YouTube and in the online community. Then the next one is what am I looking to achieve by participating? Do I seek to educate, learn, or connect? I seek to share and connect. Um, I really don't feel like I'm educating because this is my own personal gnosis. When I share things, these are things that I've tried that have worked for me. So my channel is about, hey, this works for me. Maybe it'll work for you, kind of thing. So in a way, I guess there's some education there, but like I said, I don't consider myself an expert. It's about me sharing and learning and adapting things to my way or my spin of doing things. Then the next is how do I believe social media as a whole has impacted the community? Well, we're all here, and the good part of it is that, we get to see and share and see how other people are doing things. Are there some positive things? I really feel like there's some positive things about being on a online community. You get that sense of, hey, I seen your video, I like your channel or whatever. Are there some negative things? I think so. I think some of the shorter versions of social media, sometimes, like everybody is saying, there is misinformation there. And so I feel like you have to be careful and you have to do your own research. And that is your personal responsibility. It's not anybody else's responsibility for you to do your research. Um, so, you just have to be careful out here in these social media streets. How do I think social platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube have had and have each impacted education sharing of information? Well, I'm going to say personally, there are some great things that I have gotten offline, great tips. Whenever I get something, I do my research and I also make it my way. I put my spin on it. Things that I do, I share that may be kind of different or whatever. I hope you take, if you want to take anything I share and put your spin on it, I hope you do. But that goes back to that sense of your own personal responsibility about certain things. I do feel like there are people that have um, like used this as their means of educating themselves, and I feel like that's a disservice to you mostly to believe that, because there is a lot of misinformation out here. And I feel like when you research, you got to go through more than one source. You can't even really go through one source. You got to go through more than one source, because there's a lot of people out here that proclaim to be experts. Nothing wrong with that, and some of them may be, some of them may not be. But that's for you to decide and do your own research with. And as I'm looking, I'm kind of looking over here to the side because I'm looking at my phone to make sure I kind of stay on track with the questions. Is consuming witchcraft content become a substitute for practice? It isn't for me. Um, I do feel like this is a place to share, but it's not my practice. This isn't where I practice. I actually work and practice to do this. For me, the craft is a practice. I'm a magical practitioner. Uh, that means I take things, I practice them, I use them. I may do something over and over again that it's new to me or new for me to I feel comfortable with that. That means sometimes I fail. Sometimes I do things really well, but this is my practice. I'm also a nurse, and so nursing arts is my practice. Medicine is a practice that the way you develop in that practice is you take things, you try to improve. Somebody may do something and you may look at that and say, hey, I like this, but I think I want to add this to it. And as it goes forward, it becomes better and better, either for yourself or, if you share something for other people. Um, but I think that some people, yes, this online is a part of their practice, and I'm not knocking anybody if that's, a part of your practice. That's for you. This may be sometimes a resource, but a resource that I'm very careful with. It's where I get ideas, and I'm very careful of who I get those ideas from. I like the practitioners that are true and tried, and it not necessarily has to do with their age, but the number of years they've been out here doing this. Um, Influencer authenticity. Out of what I share in social media, how much of it is it stage versus reality? I have to admit that there are times that I have staged things, but basically, what you see is what you get on my channel. I am a small YouTuber here. There is a positive to that, being a small YouTuber. Um, I fall on my face sometimes. My videography is not the best. I'm also a crone, so I'm an older witch. So, I don't have the numbers. I don't worry about it. I just have fun on here. That's the name of my game, is to have fun, to learn, to share some things, um, to be a part of the community, and I do all of those things. So, um, I feel like most of the time what you see is what you get. Even when I do spells on here, um, I use those contents sometimes to do the spell. It may be staged in what I do because I don't actually want you to see me doing the spell, but actually I may use whatever the ingredients or whatever at a later time to do that, or later that, or before I've tried it. So sometimes, yeah, stage, sometimes, but most times not. What you see is what you get on my channel, and you probably can see that. Which, okay, I don't care. Uh, do I think there is an element of censorship in online spaces? Again, that's do I think there is an element of censorship in online spaces? Yes, and there needs to be. I feel like the first responsibility is for us to censor ourselves. To ask yourself, now, is this appropriate for me to do? Does this represent me in the best light? Um, is this against my integrity personally? I think you are the first person to censor. And then I think that other people censor our work. Sometimes that's why there's the debates of you doing that wrong or whatever. Personally, I feel like we all have our own practice. We all do things the way that either we've been taught or we do things our way. Like me, I do some things the way I was taught, and some things the way I receive revelation about. So I don't want other people censoring my work. I don't mind if you have healthy criticisms or positive suggestions. I tried this in your comments on something. I thought this worked really well. I'm all about that. But to just go out and just dig somebody because you feel like what they do is absolutely wrong, and sometimes there is some maybe some questionable things there, but I feel like that's not always our job, because there's this fine line between censorship and gatekeeping. And what are you doing? You have to ask yourself that first. How do I decipher what is appropriate to share online versus what is to keep private? Is this based on social media etiquette or a personal preference? Well, for me, things that are sacred to me, things that I am maybe trying to accomplish personally, those are the things that I really don't want to share online. Things that I feel like is just general information or tips or tricks that I have learned to make things easier and work for me really well. Those are the things I don't mind sharing. I don't mind sharing a portion of my practice. Actually, I have a segment that says, hey, this is what I did this month. These are the things I enjoyed. And that may include books that I've read, maybe a spell or two that I've done, not necessarily showing you exactly, but what I've done this month. But it's just giving you a peep into how I practice, um, but not everything that I do. And I do feel like there should be some social media etiquette, because I feel like there should always be a measure of respect for each person on their platform. If you are looking at somebody else's video, even if you have a criticism, I feel like you should word that in a way that is not like you're digging a knife in them, or start a rant about that. If you don't like something that somebody's doing, or if you don't like a channel, don't look at it, okay? That's kind of how I feel. But if you have a tip or a comment or a way that you do it, I feel like that just leads to positive dialogue. My thoughts. Have I ever encountered or heard of grifters in our community? Definitely. There's the scammers, and this is one of my pet peeves. There are the people that I do not mind paying for classes. I don't mind paying for, um, like other things from other people on the platforms, that if they have online stores and stuff. As a matter of fact, I've bought stuff from people, and I don't even mind that when you are reasonably priced. I have to be admit, I'm a shopper, and I love my witchy stuff, and I don't mind spending a reasonable amount of money for it. I have the problem with people charging $5,000 for a course, or you know some exorbitant price for the information. That's just my personal preference, but you know what? I don't participate. I don't do those courses. One, because I can't afford those kind of prices, and I'm not going to spend my money on that. I mean, I'm not sure. To me, your information should be golden, and it may be for some people, but it's not. I'm not going to pay those prices for a class or anything like that. A lot of classes that I've taken, I feel like I've learned something from them. The content was good, and they were reasonably priced. Have no problem with that. But then there's some classes that I've spent money on, and I felt like, hmm, this is kind of like more for the beginner, and I've spent money on, some beginner information that basically I already knew. Now, sometimes I still learn something different, so I feel like my money is not really wasted, and I only spend so much money on a course anyway. Now, I will spend up to $1,000 because I have spent that on a content creator that provided excellent material, supplies, monthly supplies. Like, we got monthly boxes. The classes were awesome. It was well worth the money, and plus I divided those payments up, and it was well worth the money. But I'm not gonna spend $4,000 and $5,000. I just can't. So I guess I went off on a rant. Sorry about that. Yes, and I do. The grifters are the people that, to me, like, they're buy this spell from them, which I'm never going to buy a spell from somebody else. I've been practicing for 25, almost 30 years. I do my own spells and stuff. Not that I don't feel like I'll buy supplies for you, but I like to do my own work. Part of the craft for me is for me to do things myself, even if I may fall on my face. And yes, I recognize them when I see them. What tools are helpful to decipher misinformation, and how can we as a community prevent widespread misinformation? I think just doing research, more than one, uh, like maybe books, online articles, and numerous resources, I feel like is a way. How can the community prevent widespread? I'm not sure we can. Isn't it each person's personal responsibility to research and find out? If I think it's okay to ask people that you trust after you've done your research. So I feel like that's that fine line to me. Are we gatekeeping or what? It's kind of everybody's personal responsibility to educate themselves to a certain point. How does large following impact the perception of the creator? There are people out here that have large followings, and some of them I follow and are great, and some of them I've quit following because I feel like either I see some flaw to me in your personality or your character, or you gave some information maybe that I thought was, no, that's not quite correct. And that's a part, but to me, that's not gatekeeping. I don't tell anybody else. I just unfollow you because I just feel like, and mostly it's not about uh, what you taught or whatever. I see people that I see flaws in their character. And there's a couple, which I won't name, of YouTubers that have been long-term people. But when I found out about their character, or I saw how they treated people, I'm done with them. Nothing personal. No, I'm not out here telling people that they're this or that. I just personally stop following them. How does one maintain the balance of authenticity and content creation? I just feel like you do the best you can. You present yourself as truthful and positive as you can. And you can't really worry about everybody else. You kind of got to do you, you know? Imposter syndrome and FOMO. When I follow the creators in the community space, does it make me feel genuinely inspired and empowered, or does it really create feelings of FOMO and being less than? I've been at this for a while. I am a crone. Um, I don't feel jealous of everybody else's stuff. Now I may look at your stuff and be like, wow, that's great. Wouldn't mind having that. But I enjoy looking at your stuff. I mean, I don't feel like I need everything. I don't feel like I need a whole room full of herbs and stuff like that. I have a faithful few, maybe a few more of herbs and stuff that I use, and that's it. Now, I am a book nerd, so I buy lots of books, and sometimes I run out of storage. I do use Kindle and things like that, but I don't feel jealous because you have that. I have had the imposter syndrome in the past, but I feel like I'm real. This is what you see is what you get. I've been doing this for a little while. No, I'm not an expert, but I don't proclaim to be. So this is the way I do things. You think you do things maybe your way, and this is it. I don't feel intimidated by you. I'm glad you have the numbers. I don't would love to have more numbers, but I'm happy because one of the things about being a small YouTube creator, I have a life, and I can't be on YouTube sometimes every week. I have a husband that I take care of. I'm a hospice nurse. I'm an instructor for nursing. Um, I do a lot of things, and this is just happens to be one of them. So I can't really be on here all the time, nor would I want to be. What would my practice look like without social media influence for other creators? I enjoy the social media influence and social media. I feel like my practice, I feel like I've grown. I've been on social media. I haven't really been on social media for a long time, maybe 4 or 5 years. I feel like some things I've grown in, some things I've learned, like, oh, not so much. Some things I hold back on. Um, but it has been a learning experience for me, and I've met some wonderful people, so I don't regret it at all. One of the things I missed was, in what ways do I combat imposter syndrome? The older you get, you kind of get like a I don't really care what you think about me kind of situation. I'm in my 60s, so I got that old grumpy old woman, like, whatever. I really don't care how you feel about it. This is how I do it. I never present things like I'm the expert. I try to present things as this is how I do it. And you can either take it or leave that. There was maybe a time that I might have felt that way, but as you get older, you just kind of get like, really don't give a damn what you think. This is how I'm going to do it. And I kind of have that attitude. Not bragging about that, that's not always a good thing. Capitalizing off a community. Do I consider online communities as equally valid to in person communities? In some areas, I do. I am a part of a coven that is an online coven, but I would put it up against any in person coven because we meet on all the Sabbaths and Espots. We share ideas. We really are a part of each other's lives. We buy each other's gifts. We're there. We've been through each other's ups and downs. Now, we do try to meet once a year or so, and I feel like it's the best of both worlds for me because I'm still a solitary practitioner, but I have these online sisters that I love and that have become a very important aspect of my life and that I learn from. So for me, it has been a positive. Yes, sometimes being able to meet in person would be uh, a little bit better. But for me, because really at heart I'm a solitary practitioner, this is the best of both worlds for me. How have the online occult witchcraft communities impacted me as a person and a practitioner? Well, I think sometimes it's challenged me. Sometimes I see things that I personally don't agree with, But I feel like, hey, that's you, fine, not me personally. And I've learned to use wisdom in what I take with a grain of salt, what I incorporate into my practice, and how I make it mine. And I think you just have to use wisdom. Who I choose to listen to, who may not really appeal to me, and it's nothing wrong with that. Um, and I think it all works, for me. And like I said, I've met some really great people and formed some really great friendships. That is what I love. What are some of the dangers of the current phenomenon of capitalizing off the rich craft community? Now, this is real, and I do feel like there are people out here that it's all about the money. Some of them just have great numbers because maybe they have great personalities, or there is some draw that they have, and that's beautiful. I have no problem with that. I have a problem with how you treat people. How are you taking advantage of people? Those are the things that I have a problem with. But going back to, it is up to each individual. You know, you are going to have to call a cap at some point of how you let somebody treat you. Are they treating you with respect? Isn't that your personal responsibility? I'm not sure if it's our responsibility as a community to throw these people to the wolves or whatever. Um, I just feel like if you feel like people aren't treating you right, you stop doing it. And if you feel like it's bad, put it out in the community so that nobody else will take their courses or whatever. Um, but ultimately, I feel like that's your responsibility to either learn from, and you can help other people if you choose to do that by saying, this is a problem I had with this. I haven't personally been affected by anybody. The classes that I've taken and the supplies or whatever that I've bought from other influencers have been valid. I have enjoyed my products and I have no complaints. And I think I am a little picky about some things. How does one ensure the authenticity of courses, workshops, memberships as a financial investment? Like I said, I'm never going to spend over like $5,000, probably over $3,000. I'm not going to spend that kind of money. And very rarely, I really got to know you. The person that I've spent the most with has been somebody that I have investigated. I interacted with her for quite some time. I knew that out here in this community, she knew her stuff and was valid. And I feel like this is where we can help each other. I do reviews on courses that I've taken, and I try not to be disrespectful, but I'll say what I liked and didn't like about the course. And I feel like that's a good thing. I love when people do book reviews because it's the same thing. I get to say what I like and didn't like about that. And I feel like it's nothing wrong with doing reviews in a respectful manner. You don't have to tear the person down. You can say, this is what I enjoyed, maybe, and this is what I didn't. What are some topics of conversation I personally would like to see more of in our community? Personally, for me, I'm a crone and I am a witch of color. I am a woman of color. One of the things that I see in our community is that sometimes I don't see myself represented a lot. Now, there are some content creators out here that I love and I support, but that would be some of the things, that there is um, representation from all walks of life, more of that. And I do see some, so I'm not really knocking. What are my community needs? I feel like my needs are met, because there's some part of I'm not expecting the community to meet my needs. I like who I like and I support them, and those that I don't, I just don't get on their channel. You know what I'm saying? But well, you know what? I take that back. I would like to see us have more dialogue like we're having now. these kind of things where everybody puts their opinion out. Where do I feel I'm not truly being seen in my community? I will say that I feel like sometimes um, people of color do not get the numbers that other people do. And I've noticed that, and I know that there also is the algorithm, especially for YouTube, and it is what it is. And that is what it is. But I would like to see maybe the bigger channels supporting some of the smaller channels and helping them, or maybe having a workshop or something like that. But, you know, if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. I'm not going to live or die if it happens or not. Um, where do I feel I'm not? Okay, I did that. How can we help each other in removing the external peer pressure and grow in our community? I just feel like being respectful of other people. And even if you have a criticism, do that with a measure of respect. It don't rant and rave and tear somebody down unless they have really, done something really shady. Uh, how do we as a community do better when we receive criticism and feedback? I don't feel like we always do that in the best manner. I've seen people really tear people down for some things. I don't really care for that. Now, if you've really done something to a number of people, mistreated people, I don't have any problem with, people sharing that information. If you voiced an opinion that maybe is different from mine, I don't have to tear you down because you feel differently than I do. I feel like I can voice my opinion to you with a measure of respect. I'm kind of going back to how can we as community come together with more constructive criticism without seeming shady or passive aggressive. I just feel like you maybe can maybe give tips. This is the way I do it, you know, or just to tear. That's wrong. That's wrong. I don't feel like that's the way they do things. Maybe it's different from the way you do things. I just would say that it's just as simple as being the wording that you use and being respectful. Who are some community members that I look up to that are reliable resources and aspirations? I would rather not do that because that's that to me. Pitting one. It's some, you can do your own research out here. It's some people that are out here that I feel are really great, and it not has nothing to do always with the numbers, but they are reliable sources. I like to see how many years do you have in the game. Have you been doing this for a while? I do feel like life experiences work well with the craft. There are some young content creators though that have been doing this for 20 years. Okay, I'm good with that. You have 20 years in the game, but I mean you've been only which nothing personal, but about 4 years, and now you're the expert. Not so much for me. I'm just being honest. Add any further thoughts, comments, prompt questions of your own, and express further points or offer solutions. I feel like what we're doing here and everybody putting their 2 cents in and voicing how you feel is a start. I feel like we can work to be a little bit more inclusive. So when there are panels and that kind of thing, is everybody like you? Does everybody look like you on your panel? Do you have other representatives? And other representatives, just because maybe you have a small number, and I know that's going to be controversial, but you've been doing this for a long time, I feel like that's a representative. I feel like people of color, should be representative. So when we have these panels, when we have um, different groups and stuff, are you representing the whole? That's one of my things. Um, and that's it. Those were my opinions. That's how I feel. Ultimately, I feel like the responsibility for your craft, your education, Your research, how you want to practice, is your responsibility. And there is a fine line between gatekeeping and holding people accountable. I do feel like we need to hold people accountable, but how we do that, that is the question. Thank you so much for the time spent. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.